That's better there. Now, that was better there. Now what I'm doing, oddly enough, is this. If I can get you firm here, I can get this to fold. So
when the best golfers in the world need to sharpen their skills, they look for the best teacher in the world. And over 100 touring pros look to Jimmy Ballard's Golf Workshop at Doral Resort and Country Club in Miami, Florida for that competitive edge. Like Jimmy Ballard, the Doral name stands for excellence. Spread over 2,400 acres, Doral offers sun and relaxation, as well as exercise and recreation. It's the home of the luxurious Doral Saturnia International Spa Resort, nationally recognized as one of the top spas in the eastern United States. But it's championship golf that Doral is best known for. 99 challenging holes spread over 6 courses, including the infamous Blue Monster, site of the Doral Open on the PGA Tour since 1962. At Doral, the adage "practice makes perfect" rings loud and clear. A lighted driving range on the resort side offers guests a constant workout. And if you need assistance with your swing, then head down the range to the Jimmy Ballard Golf Workshop, where high handicappers and scratch players practice the true fundamentals under the watchful eye of Jimmy Ballard. Jimmy has been teaching golf for nearly 3 decades, and over that time he's devised a definitive and organized method to enable golfers to understand the fundamental golf swing. For years, he studied the great ball strikers, Hogan, Snead, Nelson, and found similarities in all their swings. Today, along with his staff of teaching professionals, Jimmy Ballard connects golf swings with the proper fundamentals. Through classroom workshops that allow students to see the right moves, to personally videotape sessions on the practice tee, Jimmy Ballard emphatically proves that the golf swing is nothing more than a natural athletic move. Ballard is best known for his work with successful touring pros like Curtis Strange, Sandy Lyle, Seve Ballesteros, and Hal Sutton. But it's working with amateur players of all levels, men and women, young and old, that he finds most rewarding. Each week, Jimmy looks at hundreds of swings. He is a student of the game. And for 30 years, he has studied the fundamental golf swing.
Yeah. Now that's what I call a good golf swing. But it ought to be. He's my #1 assistant. I'd like to introduce you to Artie McNichol. He's going to demonstrate for you the fundamentals of the golf swing, what we call the common denominators, which, as you will see, is nothing more than an athletic move in the golf swing. Artie played the tour some 10 years, from 72 to 81.
Well, I'll tell you what, though, the first 5 years I couldn't break an egg out there. I came in to see you in 1977, and my golf swing got a whole lot better, and I had a lot more fun out there. But I'm not so sure there's much of an athlete left in this body.
Don't tell me that now. For sure, golf professionals are athletes, and that swing that you just made was an athletic swing. And I want all of you to know, all athletes have athletic moves, whether it's golf, whether it's baseball, whether it's boxing, whether it's hockey, football, it makes no difference. All pro golfers are athletes. I'd like to discuss how I came about the 7 common denominators. When I was a 14-year-old kid, I could play pretty good. I'd been playing golf 3 or 4 years. I was playing with a guy at Roebuck Golf Course in Birmingham, Alabama in a tournament one time by the name of Lee Mackey. In 1950, Lee had shot 64 in the U.S. Open, and that record stood for a long, long time. I think Johnny Miller tied it later or maybe beat it, but other than that, it stood for a number of years. And in playing with him, I hit 16, 17 greens that day, shoot 69. He says, "Boy, kid, you can play pretty good." I didn't see him again for some 3 or 4 or 5 years. I started playing baseball and football in high school, and I kind of got away from golf. And then when I started back, I started working real hard on the stiff left arm and the head down and all the things that the magazines said and people had been telling me that you had to do. And the next thing I knew, I couldn't play. And I played again with Lee when I was about 17 years old, and I shoot 81 or so, and he says, "What in the world has happened to your golf swing?" So I figured, well, I'd tell him. So I started talking to him about it. He said, "Son, you can't play golf that way." He said, "Good players never had stiff left arms. They couldn't keep their head down." He says, "I want to take you to see a guy." So Lee Mackey took me over and introduced me to Sam Bird. Sam was a former New York Yankee baseball player. He was Babe Ruth's roommate and backup man for 10 years, played a couple of years with Cincinnati, and then went on the golf tour. And Sam won 20-something tournaments while he was on the tour in a pretty short time. And in 1945, Byron Nelson beat him in a playoff, 36-hole playoff for the PGA Championship. And with that, Sam obviously had established himself as a golfer also, and I don't think any other baseball, I know no other baseball player had ever accomplished what he accomplished in golf. And from there, he began to talk to me about swinging a baseball bat. And actually, the first golf lesson I took from Sam, we did with a baseball bat against a tree, hitting against a tree and learning to square the bat up and not hit the tree with angles. And from there, he began to show me pictures of Ruth. He had an awful lot of pictures of Ruth batting, a lot of Gehrig batting, and he started showing me a lot of these pictures, and he had a lot of pictures himself of Hogan and Snead and Byron Nelson. And he would compare the pictures in the same positions, and it just all fell into place. You could see they were all in the same positions at certain points. So from that, over the years, I began to try to put together a system of teaching it in order. Sam never particularly put these things in order. He would just look at a swing and say, well, you're not here or you're not here. But I began to realize if I was going to teach this, I needed to have an order to it to where people could understand it. Well, obviously, it has to start with position. So that's kind of where we started. And I began to study all the players who had lasted. I didn't go and look at film or any pictures of a player who lasted 4 or 5 years. Sam told me, he said, there are a lot of people who have cups of coffee. You got to go with the guy who stays there. We found that by studying the pictures of all the great ball strikers, and we went back and we only studied the players who lasted longer than 10 years. And in doing that, we started right in the setup. We found they all basically had the brace connected address. You could see the legs braced, and you could see they all had the V's, the triangle. No one had harsh angles or anything. It was, then the arms were very soft, no tension or anything. You could just see the naturalness that we teach, and it's in all the great ball strikers. You could see as the club went away to waist high, all the great ball strikers had the club intact. They still had the triangle. And then as the right arm folded to take the club up, all of them, you could see it set the club in a square position at the top, just as they had been when they started. Then the reverse of the leg, you could see the kick and see the shaft spring. You didn't see it pull, you could see them spring the shaft. And you could see the right leg and the whole right side unwind. Then you could see the triangle back intact at impact. Then as they go through the ball, you could see the elbows fold down with the right arm on top of the left, not over the left, but just even with it, on top of it as it went through, because that's where it started. Again, the triangle was intact, then the elbows folded, and all the great ball strikers finished in a straight, balanced position. And you know, over the years, these fundamentals haven't changed at all. That's what I teach, the fundamentals from what the great old ball strikers do. That's what I've taken with the students I work with today.
Now here's Hal Sutton. Hal first came to see me when he was 17 years old. You can certainly see a lot of the fundamentals we talk about in his golf swing. Now here's Curtis Strange. Curtis first came to see me in 1980, and from there, it's history on what he's done since 1980. Now here's Seve Ballesteros. He came to see us in 1984 with lower back problems. Now he has a straight balanced finish and no pain. Now here's Sandy Lyle. He came to see me in 1987, and a month later won the TPC.
I taught these players the same fundamentals that Sam Bird taught me and that I've learned, and that's what I want to do with you. I want to teach you to enjoy the game and have fun with it, and that it's nothing in the world but a coordinated swing.
Now, to understand the fundamental golf swing, we have to first understand connection, the master fundamental. Connection is the natural sequential wholeness and efficiency of athletic action.
I'd like to explain the left arm connection to you, and then I'd like for you to see how it applies to the right arm connection and let you get the relationship to center and centrifugal force. Now first, remember, the left arm connection is the left arm as if it's plugging in by the left breast. It's laying on the body by the breast. The left arm lays there so that you can use your whole shoulder, which is the lat and the pec, the whole shoulder girdle. Now, the way I'd like to describe that to you is let the left arm lay connected on your body, and you'll feel the left arm kind of work sideways in the golf swing, back and up in this manner, connected. Now I want you to understand the right arm connection, and this is where I find people get very, very confused. I want you to understand the right arm connection is the same. The arm is extended but connected on the body, plugged in. But I want you to understand here, the right elbow is pointed to the outside hip bone. The left elbow would be pointed to the inside hip bone. When we move our shoulders back, when the left arm and shoulder is moving sideways, the right arm and shoulder, and remember that's shoulder, still the pec in the lat, because the elbow is set out, is moving back and up. That puts that right arm and shoulder in a strong position. Now let me show you a disconnected right arm. It would be if you tucked your right arm in and went this way. Could you hit anything hard from there? No way. Now show them how if you tucked your right elbow in, you disconnect your right shoulder. Now see, from there his left arm went over his right arm is so tucked in, he's not using his shoulder. Now show him the difference in taking your right arm back up on plane and watch how the shoulder, now his right shoulder supporting that club, and that's a lot of difference in feel and in power, isn't it, Artie?
You betcha. I couldn't hit anything from down here. From right here, I'm in a hitter's position where I can really spring the shaft.
That's right, and go after it with your whole body through down the line. Now, another way to disconnect it would be to run from the socket or run from the joint, the same as here, and go here. Well, when you did that, this right arm is out of the socket and it no longer has the shoulder. That would be a disconnected right arm by going up and disconnecting it. This would be disconnecting it by going around. The perfect right arm would be that the shoulder and the spine would move and it would go back and up. The perfect left arm is traveling sideways. The perfect right arm is traveling back and up, and that'll put the club on plane. If you take the club around, you have no way because your left arm is disconnected. If you take the club this way, your right arm is disconnected. So we want to take the club and triangle back together.
Now the best way I can explain this is to show you a drill that Babe Ruth taught Sam when he was a rookie, and Sam used for the rest of his life, in baseball and in golf.
He asked him to take a towel and put it under his left armpit. And I'd like to demonstrate that for you. If I take this towel and I hold it under my left armpit in this manner, can you see how immediately the pressure would be on the arm holding the towel against the shoulder and would make you use the big muscles, the shoulder muscles, the lats and the pecs here. So that's the way Sam learned to be a good hitter in baseball. He found that by holding the towel under the left armpit, it put the pressure in all the big muscles. They would react, whereas when he was nervous, when he was frightened, and he would get squeezing the bat, you can see how he would drop the towel because the arms would separate from his body. So therefore, that was one of the main things that he did. And that's the point I'm trying to make. If you take a towel and you hold it under your left armpit, it would be a natural motion of the whole body in every sport or any athletic motion. Let's just take, if you had an axe and you were trying to chop a tree down, would you go like this with your arms, or would you hold your left arm to your upper body and allow your body to go? That's what we're trying to show you. In hockey, if you had a hockey stick and you squared it up with the hands separated, do you see how everything would square up? You would never pull or go this way to try to square it up because you couldn't. It would be an angle. If you're throwing a football, what's the first thing a football player does? He coils back to his right leg so his whole body would throw. He would never stand flat-footed and throw with his arm. Think of a forehand down the line in tennis. What would happen? The ball would be coming on a level here. The tennis player loads back into his right leg or her right leg, and then they can level on it. And that's the whole point. You wouldn't do that by holding your body still and hitting with your arm. If you were going to make a play as a shortstop would to the second baseman in an underhanded tossing motion, you wouldn't keep your head down and just toss with your arm. Your body would move back. All the big muscles load into your right side, and you can see how the whole right side, the whole body would coordinate. Now let me give you a drill here, just as something you can do at home. And if you would think of it in this manner, if I stood to this golf cart and I wanted to get myself in such a position that I could hit this golf cart solid and hard enough to roll it, would I do that by staying back here and going this way, or would I pull my left arm in this manner? Of course not. I would take my whole body and drive it into the cart. That would square it up and go right to the target.
Now let's take a closer look at common denominator number one, the brace connected address. The inside heel measurements are shoulder width, the weight equally distributed, the arms are connected to the body, and the palms of the hands are facing each other with a square grip. And I think the best way to understand it first is without holding a club, let me illustrate to you where your body should be to be in a strong position, posture-wise and everything. The way we like to say it is we want your inside heel measurements approximately shoulder width. We want you to feel like that you are slightly knock-kneed. You can feel a little pressure off the inside balls of your feet, the knees, feeling a little equal pressure. It's equal weight distribution when you're here. I'll turn this way and you can see very clearly that the spine would be relatively straight. I want you to notice here, I wouldn't reach with my arms. I put my arms on my body. They're connected. They're extended, but they're not reaching. By being here, I'm using all the big muscles in my body. That's what we call the brace-connected address. And I want you to figure this out. If someone were up on a platform with a 50-pound sack of potatoes and they said, catch it, this is the position you'd get in. You'd brace your legs, your spine would be straight, and you'd be ready to receive it. What would happen if someone pitched you 50 pounds and you were this way? You can see how that would pull your back in two. You would get injured. The idea is from here, you could catch it, you could receive it. That's what I want you to understand in the brace-connected address, where the body is. Now look at Artie. He's in a go position. He's ready to hit something hard. Okay, now let us show you a little drill here that we like to use to show how you can connect yourself. This shag bag full of balls obviously is not light. It has a little weight to it. And we like to talk about being sure the arms are in the right position. Get a little better posture there, Artie, and show them. There we go. Now, if Artie held the club out here, he could hold the club for a long time because he's holding it with his chest, with his lats. He's holding it, in other words, with all the big muscles, the shoulder areas. He is not holding it with his arms extended away from the shoulder joints with stiff arms. The great player's arms are here, which ties in the body. And proof of that, if I took something heavy and I laid it here in the triangle of Artie's arms, he could hold that because he's holding that bag of balls with his body. Now, by the same time, if he stretched his arms out, that bag gets heavy, doesn't it, Artie? That's the point we're trying to make. You can't hold it for any length of time. That shows this is the power, this is tension. We don't want tension in the golf swing. We want power. Think about a fighter throwing a punch. Do you think he gets his arms out here, or do you think he gets his arms in here? Think about throwing a ball hard. You don't get your arms away from your body. You get them in here. So that's what I want them to see right there. Now, Artie, if you will, let's show them the grip, if you would. Go ahead and let's go back, take the club, and let's do our little drill, our little pre-swing thoughts to get it in there. First, let's talk about the grip. And let's get it in your left hand and show them where it should be, underneath the pad and laying across the joint. Now what we want to show you here, if I could, and I want to prove a point, see how the club hooks underneath the pad of the hand here, and it lays right across this joint. With Artie's connection there, he can take the club, hold it in front of him. I can pull this club, and I can pull this club very hard. And as long as he's resisting me there, he does not have to squeeze the club to hold it. I am creating the outer force that's created when you're swinging the club, and he's creating the inner force by letting the club lay here. He is not squeezing the club or creating tension. Now Artie put the fingers on there. There we go. And the thumb is on top of the shaft here, and you'll see very clearly he is not squeezing the club and tightening the forearm. He is just letting it lay there like he's holding a bird, but yet I could not pull this club out of his hand. Now again, Artie, get your arm long and squeeze it, and let's show him what will happen. I can pull him right off balance every single time with no effort at all, simply because when he's connected, I am pulling him from his spine. I'm pulling him from center. When he is disconnected, I'm pulling him from his socket, and he couldn't maintain balance at all. Okay, now go back to the grip. I think that explains how you're connecting the left hand and the arm and shoulder. Now show them where the right hand is. Underneath the pad, the elbows are pointed to the outside hip bones. If you will, Artie, show them the right hand grip. Take your left hand off and show them how it lays in the pad under the right hand and just in the two middle fingers, right there. Now, if there's any grip pressure in the golf swing, you can squeeze the club as tight as you want to with the two middle fingers on the right hand, as long as it's underneath the pad and laying right in the joints there.
Now, what will happen is we want you to feel like you extend your arms, and it's almost like a clap hand position. We want your palms facing each other in this manner here. And you can see how we make one unit with the hands, and there everything is square.
Now, I don't care if you interlock, overlap, or you use the 10-fingered grip. I just want the palms square and facing each other. Now, on grip pressure, I want you to remember we don't want to squeeze the club. It's like you're holding a bird in your hand. You have him firm, but you don't squeeze him. Now, notice in the left hand how the club lays underneath the fatty part of the pad there and hooks right into the index finger. And in the right hand, just notice how it's in the two middle fingers right underneath the fatty pad. Now let's take a closer look at common denominator number 2. The triangle and center go away together. The right arm stays above the left to maintain centrifugal force, and remember, avoid creating angles in your backswing.
Now, the best way I know how to describe this first is let me explain centrifugal force to you. First of all, I want you to understand that centrifugal force is an equal inner pull this way and an equal outer push, which would be the right hand. Now, true centrifugal force would be, and I'll just try to give you this as a thought, if you had a string here and you had a rock on the end, if you held the string on the end here, the rock is here, the faster you would move your hand here, the faster you could swing the rock. Now, that's exactly what center is to you in the golf swing. The problem is that once you have set up to the golf ball, you have 2 sockets and 2 joints in the hips, you have 2 sockets and 2 joints in the shoulder joints. So therefore, when you set up, the center of your swing is the spine. And that is the same as where you would be holding the string to swing the rock. That's what this is. This is where you're holding the string. The rock is the end of the club. Now, what we have to do here to create centrifugal force is to keep the left hand on the original position, which is the inner force, keep the right hand on the outer force, and now you can see how the club would be moving with the center of my chest or with my spine. Now that is very, very important in the golf swing. That's what you must understand. If I can take this club away with my left hand shorter than my right, then the club can square back up and it can release down the line, and you can see how my inner force always remains here and my outer force is always the right arm on the outer circle. That creates the triangle throughout the swing with no angles. Now, what I want you to understand is, as soon as if you took the club away and you got an early hand set, do you see how immediately the butt of the club is out of center and you created an angle? If you took the club and rolled it inside, can you see how the butt of the club is out of center? My left arm is on the outer force, my right arm is shorter. How could I possibly square that club up? I'd have to rotate it back the same amount I rotated it open when I created the angle. That won't work. So the idea is, when you take the club back, it stays in the center of the body, it stays in front of you, your left arm is where it started, your right arm is on the outer force, and that would form a triangle. And it's the same when you go through it. You should maintain this triangle in the relation to the center of your chest from waist high on the backswing, back to impact, and waist high through the ball. Now, one of the things I want you to understand, and you must understand in the golf swing, is that if you create an angle, you then either have to hit it with that angle or you have to compensate for it with the body, and that's where crooked golf shots come from. The drill that we like to use in the golf swing, we like to tell everyone, it's what we call the toe in the air drill, which I think the best way to describe it to you is first take your brace connected address here and just feel like from here you get your hands apart a little, just that little split grip drill. And when you take the club away, I want you to think in terms of the toe of the club. Just feel like with center, with the triangle, the whole triangle, your shoulders, you can see how both shoulders are working. It all goes back together. The butt of the club stays in the center of the triangle, and when you do that, do you see how the toe of the club is in the air? If you roll the club or took it in the wrong direction, the toe would go here, the arms would go around, the butt of the club is out of center, and you can see how the club is laid off in a flat position. You could never square the club back up from there. You would hit it with a glancing blow. So the idea is, with the hands apart, your left arm is on the inner force, your right arm is on the outer force. You can see how my spine is moving and the toe is in the air at waist high. Then you can see how the toe would be right back to impact here or square where it started. My left hand is still on the inner force, my right hand is on the outer force. When I release through the ball, you can see the butt of the club still in the center of my body. My right arm's on the outer force, my left hand's on the inner force. I still have the triangle or the position I started with. Now from there, let's do our little waist high to waist high drill, Artie, with the club in the center of your chest. Show them that, how set up, and then show them how. This is a little drill where you can run the club up through to the center of your chest. Just pretend the club is longer. From waist high to waist high, that's the triangle back together. Now take it through. And that's the triangle through together. Do you see how all that happened there is Artie had the club, had his original position, and he was connected. Everything is square. He simply took his center, his spine, he shifted the weight into the right leg on the waist high, and now he can go through the ball with the legs, and the arms never change. It's like what we call the dog wags the tail, meaning the body is swinging the arms. We do not think the tail can wag the dog. We do not think you can swing your arms and hold your body still and make an athletic move. Go back and forth and you can see the athletic move here. To waist high, to waist high. That's a great drill. So the idea is the triangle is formed by the arms in relation to center. The triangle should be intact at waist high going back. The triangle should be intact at waist high going through. That way you can plainly see and watch how my legs from the brace connected address would respond. My left foot, left knee would shift my spine and shift my weight back with the triangle, back to impact and through. A good drill is to hit punch shots or the feeling of punch shots, maintaining the triangle here to waist high and here to waist high. You're always maintaining the club in center, but remember one thing, each time I'm moving center. I'm not moving this club until my spine moves back. And if my spine moves, my shoulders are moved if I'm connected. If I just took my arms, the club is out of center. If I roll the club, I'm out of center. Or if I drag the club, it's an angle and I'm out of center. But keep the triangle in center to waist high, and that's common denominator number 2.
Now let's take a closer look at common denominator number 3, coiling into the braced right leg. And remember now, to do this, the head must flow back with the spine, and remember, you can't turn in a golf swing.
Now before we can do this, you must understand some things in the golf swing. People have been told for years and years and years to hold their head down and still throughout the golf swing. That's impossible to do. It's impossible to do for this reason. Your head weighs approximately 17 pounds. How in the world can a person take their head, hold it down, try to do anything athletic holding a 17-pound weight here and swinging around it? To me, it's one of the most ridiculous things you could tell an athlete to do. You paralyze them right there. What we want you to understand is this, and we want to give you some ideas on how it works. Number one, this head is nothing more than a 17-pound weight on the end of your spine. In the golf swing, your spine is the center of both of your shoulders. Now, I want you to think of something. How could you take the triangle away if you simply took your arms away and you never moved your spine? There's no way. So the idea is the spine has to move in the golf swing. It has to move if you're throwing something. It would have to move if you're hitting something. You can't hold your spine still and hit something. So if your spine moves, your head has to follow. Now let me give you some ideas on how some of the great ball strikers do this. Let's first take Jack Nicklaus, one of the greatest ball strikers that's ever been. The first thing that Jack does in the golf swing to initiate his backswing is he moves his head. Watch him closely. When he sets up and he forms the triangle in the relationship of his arms to the center of his spine, what's the first thing he does before he takes the club away? He presets his head. He does it almost dramatically. He sets up right before he takes it away. He makes a big move with his head here, which automatically sets his balance. By going here, he's cut his eyes, his balance is behind the ball before he starts. Hogan does the same thing in a little more of a subtle way. They both put their head here. What does that do? That frees the shoulders and the spine so that it can move to the right. Another example to show you that you can look for in players is pictures of Sam Snead when he swings the club. Sam just sits down, and when he takes the club away, you can see this whole triangle away together, and then his head just flows with his spine. In other words, you can watch his head and it'll kind of rotate with his spine. His head will kind of rotate to the right, where Hogan and Nicholas preset their heads there first and then get to the right leg. Snead just lets his flow in that manner, and that gets him back. Now, what I want to make a point here is, for years and years and years, golfers have been trying to play the game by turning, and I don't know why, because it's a physical impossibility with almost every golfer. The only golfer who could turn in the golf swing would be a golfer who played on one leg. So if you want to play golf on one leg, you can think of turning. The reason is very simple. You can turn from one socket and one joint. I like to describe that in this manner. If I took a ball joint and socket and I connected it to that golf club, I could turn that golf club from that one ball joint and that one socket. The same as in the golf swing, if you want to play golf on one leg, you can turn from one socket and one joint. But most of you are playing golf on two legs. When you do, you have two sockets and two joints. Picture it this way. If I had a ball joint and socket here, and I attached another ball joint and socket here, could you turn that golf club? Obviously no. You could twist with ball joints on it, but you couldn't turn it because you can't turn from two sockets and two joints. You have two choices here. If you tried to keep your head down, if you tried to stay over the ball, then all that would happen is you would shift your weight into your left socket, which would be the reverse pivot. You see where the spine would be, and again, you can see you'd be forward on your backswing, so where would you be on your downswing? Going back and pulling up. So the idea here is, I want you to understand, you have to shift to your right hip joint. And to do that, you have to make a lateral weight shift. People have been told for years and years to turn in the golf swing. And you can't turn in the golf swing. And I think the simplest way in the world to talk about it, if you would, again, demonstrate it for us, set up and turn for us. As soon as he turns, because you can't turn from two sockets and two joints, you can see all of his weight reverse pivoted into his left leg. As funny as that might seem, that's the way 9 out of every 10 golfers come to us, because they're told to turn, and all they do is reverse pivot into this left hip joint. Now this, along with the fact when you turn, Artie, if you'll take the club back, let's show them a little bit of where the arms would roll if you turned. Everything rolls, as you could see, inside and around. Now his next move, because of the reverse pivot, his weight will shift back to the right, the club will go over the top, and that's how we hit over the top and across the line. Now from there, you can see how we load the right side. Already show them there when the right arm folds. Now let the club fall in. There you go. Now that's loaded into the right leg. Now I want all of you to notice how his spine has shifted. He's into his right leg. That's the good, strong position. Now Artie, show him over the wall there, or over there. Now you can see how his head would have pulled his body. You see his weight over the line. Show him where your balance is over the wall there. Show him right down there. See where the balance is over there. Now show him where the balance should be. Right there. See the balance on the inside of his right foot. That's where we want him. Now show him what happens if you hold the head over the ball and try to shift back where your balance would be. And that's a reverse pivot. And unfortunately, folks, that's where we find most people try to play golf from. Tee one up there for us. Okay. And what I'd like for you to do, load the right side up for him here now.
About waist high?
Well, go ahead and load it up at the top. Let's talk about that first. Now, let's first understand, when we're talking about loading the right side, that's just the way his left foot, left knee, his spine shifted into his right leg. But you see where his spine is over or into the right leg. Not over it, but into the set of the right leg. And you feel pressure in here, don't you?
A lot of pressure in there. I can
a lot of pressure in here, a lot of pressure in here, and even up in your thigh. You feel tension in there. And that's the correct way to do it. Right leg. Already show him a little reverse pivot there, just so they can see the difference. See where his weight now is into his left leg. Now at the same time, come back to the wall, come back to the loaded right side. Now show him over the wall, please, just so they can see. Now that's moving over the wall. Obviously he's off balance, he's over the wall. The reverse pivot would have been the other way. Show him the right position again. There we go. That's into the right leg, right there. That's balance.
Now, Art, if you will, let's talk a little bit about playing. Take it back to waist high, and then so they can see it, I want to kind of work it up with you from there for just a second and talk a little bit about the plane. All right, from right there, the club, the triangle is exactly where he started. The club's in the center of his body here, which he still has centrifugal force because he's got the inner force. His right arm is longer than his left here. You can see how he's loaded into the right leg at that point. It's into the foot, it's into the knee, it's into the hip. Now from there, with his right arm on the outer force and his left arm on the inner force, the club from here would what we call plane off. It's here as the club falls in, the butt of the club would be pointed to a line or a rail of the railroad track that the ball is on. Now let me explain that from here, we see players anywhere from the butt of the club directly to the line. They can be slightly into here on this line. What we would never want, which would be the flying right arm and out of plane, would be for the butt of the club to be on a line behind him, because now the club is breaking plane in this direction, and from here he's in a lot of trouble, because the only thing he'd do with the flying right arm is he'd then have to reroute it into here, and now he'd be in the block position, and all of that would come about because he's out of plane in this direction, breaking the plane of glass here. Now the other deal would be this. This would get right back, and that's on the right plane, on the outer rail or the line the ball is on. Too flat a plane would be here. Now his left arm is over his right. Now the butt of the club would be on a plane straight out in front of him. Well, if he was playing baseball, that would be all right. But the thing is, he's playing golf. The ball is not up here on this plane. The ball is on this plane. So therefore, we ask everyone to be somewhere with the butt of the club between the outer rail and maybe in between the rail the feet's on here. It could be anywhere in that area. But anytime the left arm gets over the right, you're in a whole bunch of trouble, because from right there, that's where we have to loop the club up because it's so flat. That's where she comes down and across. We video this day after day. Every person that loops the club and goes over the top, show them, Artie, they take it here. And we can put it on film all day long and prove it in every case.
What would be the best way to teach some of our students a feel that would produce on plane? Sometimes I used to feel my thumbs under the shaft. Is that a good idea?
That's an excellent idea. Any feeling, and show that with the thumbs under the shaft, meaning, see when the club folds here and falls in, see how Artie's thumbs here are under the shaft. Now that's a key. When you're too flat, the club would be laid off. Now the thumbs are on the side of the shaft and the blade is shut. By the same token, if you came over here, you can see where the thumbs are on the side of the shaft, out of plane there. So the idea is to feel the club fall in right there with the hand in kind of a cup position. We don't say cup it, but it's somewhat of that feel, right on plane. That's the perfect plane. Show them again now from the start, Artie, how it breaks straight away at waist high, and hold it right there. Now, if you're standing behind a person when they do that, sometimes it gives you a little bit of the feeling that the club is going outside. But see, as center is coiling and Artie's right arm folds, you can see how the club goes right on the plane that the ball should be on. Now let's take a closer look at common denominator number 4, the change of direction or the fall in of the golf club at the top of the swing. And remember, this is started from the ground up. You must spring the shaft with your feet and legs. The change of direction in the golf swing is what we call springing the shaft opposed to pulling the shaft. Now, I want to first describe that feel to you by describing how Ben Hogan did it in 1957 in the 5 fundamentals. When he talked about making an underhanded tossing motion of the right side, I think you could first very plainly see that to change the directions and start the downswing, he pushes off of his right foot. It comes from the ground up. You can't slide your hips and throw a ball. You couldn't slide your hips and hit anything hard. You would fire your right side, and to do that, it has to start right at the top. So we use the example a lot of times to try to create a feel for you of a person tossing a ball. Would you start from the top to toss a ball by pulling down with your right side, or would you start from the top by
firing your right side from the ground up and letting that spring your arm, and that would bring your whole right side down. You wouldn't throw by pulling, you wouldn't throw by tucking your right elbow in, and you sure couldn't toss a ball across those hedges there by staying back. You'd have to let your right side go. And to do that, it starts from the top with what we call spring the shaft, work the toe of the club from the ground up. In other words, the right foot, the right knee springs that shaft. There's power. There's no power in pulling and dragging. Okay, Artie, I tell you what, let's do now. Let's show them, we showed them the swing, the plane on the way back. Let's show them the downswing plane, which includes being able to spring the shaft, which is how we started down on the downswing, on the proper plane, and then let's show them how it releases through still on plane. All still talking about plane. So get it to the top for us. Here we are. Now we've talked about that's on plane. Now from there, Artie, if you will, show them how, just a little if you could, spring the shaft a little for us there. There, that's the springing. That's springing the shaft with the right side. That's power. Now show them what would happen if you pulled with your left arm. There. Now, if you will, Artie, what we'd like to show them, take it back to the top again now. And the point is, and I'd like to do this myself, when we spring this shaft, there's a momentary fall in, but then as Artie's right side fires and his left arm stays on his body, you can see how the club comes back on the same plane, right back into the center of his body, and then as the left arm folds, the club is on the same plane going through the line of flight here to the finish. Now what we want you to understand is this. If Artie took that club back on plane, and when he started down, if he dropped his right elbow in and changed to a flatter plane, that would produce a block and an angle across the ball every time with the right arm under the left, and there's no way he could release that club head. The club is out of center. He's lost centrifugal force. He's in a lot of trouble once he drops it inside because he has to block it. That is not what happens. Plus, if you dropped it inside, your left arm is on the outer force pulling, and that's across the line of flight every single time. And the more a person tries to drop her inside, the more across the ball they come. So the idea is to spring this shaft. The club comes right back on plane, right back into the center of the body, and then the release, his body's releasing it, the club's on plane in the center of the body now, and the left elbow still connected. There's the straight balance finish. Okay, hit a couple more. Remember one thing. I think Ben Hogan gave you the greatest sensation in the world when he said it's like a shortstop making the play to the second baseman. And that's the move from the top. He said the shortstop would take his right side and make the play to the second baseman. And that shortstop wouldn't pull down with his right arm. That shortstop wouldn't tuck his right elbow into his side. He'd fire his right arm from here. He would make the head swing. He would spring the toe of the club at the ball. He would never pull the heel of the club at the ball from the top.
Now let's take a closer look here at common denominator number 5, firing the right side, extending down the line of flight. The right hip must be up to hit a descending blow down the line of flight.
Now, you can't go over the top if you get into your right side and fire the right side from the ground up. The right foot, the right knee, the right hip, the right lat, all starts down in a chain reaction starting from the ground up. Now there again, you start from here, which is how you would spring the shaft, and that's how you're firing the right side. You would never start the downswing by leading with your left hip. If you did, you would be pulling the club down and creating an angle of the club out of center. You never start down by pulling down with the arms. That makes the body tilt back and makes you hit across the line into the block position. You start down by taking the right side, and as Ben Hogan said in 1957 in the Fundamentals of Golf, you take your right side and it unwinds to your left. Hogan says, I wish I had 3 right hands. That's proof to me
of what we're talking about. He loads into his right leg, and he says it's like a shortstop making the play to the second baseman with his right side. You can see how my right foot, right knee, right hip would start forward. That would make my spine and my whole right side square up at impact, and that lets me stretch my right side and allows me to extend my right side down the line. You want to get an extended right side down the line of flight. That's the only way you can hit a descending blow down and through the ball. You have to keep your right hip up to be able to hit down, or what we call it drives up. When the right foot, right knee, right hip kicks up, I feel my right side hitting down. If I pull my left side at the ball, my right hip goes under my left, my right elbow would tuck in, and I'm hitting under and up and across the line every single trip. The more I tuck my right elbow in and pull my left arm, the more across the ball I am. And show them now a tossing motion with a club in your right hand. And I want them to see how you're generating that club head speed with your feet, legs, and body. That all you're doing is holding the club with your right arm. Do a one-handed swing, just away from the ball, Artie. Just take the left hand off the club. Show them the tossing motion. That's the tossing motion. Now that's what Hogan referred to when he said, feel like you're throwing a ball underhanded with your right side. Watch as he loads back, let the right go. Now, show them what would happen if you got back and tried to pull the club down with your right arm. Or it would just flip by you and cross over. That way. It's right side. Show them the difference in right side. And show them right arm. And the body stop it. Stay back and there. That's what people are told. Stay behind it, cross your right arm over your left. It's fine if you like to hit duck hooks. I'd like for you to think about it in another way. If I told you to take the back of your left hand and square up and hit something solid, could you do that pulling your left arm, or do you think you'd fire your right side to backhand someone? I'd like to demonstrate on this cart. If I go over here and I wanted to set up with the back of my left hand to this cart seat, the way I would hit that cart seat is first get into my right leg, but I wouldn't stay on my right side. I wouldn't stay behind the ball and square up and pull my left arm. I couldn't. The low point of my arm would be behind the ball hitting up. What would I do when I got into my right side? I'd fire my right side, allowing the back of my left hand to square up to the club, to the back to the cart seat, not the butt of my hand. If you slide and pull, you'd be hitting the cart seat with the butt of your hand, with a stiff left arm, with the body hanging back. That's under, up, and across, plus you're hitting the cart seat a glancing blow. But by starting with your right side and feeling the left elbow fold down, I'm hitting that cart seat hard with the back of my left hand, and where would my right hand be? Squaring up, my hips would be level. I can hit the cart hard, I could push it forward. What would happen if I pulled and stayed back on my right side? The idea is what I want you to understand in the golf swing is, if I'm going to propel something in that direction, I cannot pull this way and propel something in that direction. Could you imagine a baseball batter pulling the handle of the bat? His right arm would be under his left and he'd hit it to right field all day long, or he'd have to hang back and be a pull hitter. But if he's going to hit a home run, he fires his right, his left folds down, the bat squares up, and he hits it with the head of the bat, not the handle of the bat. Golf pros for years have told people they feel like they pull the handle of the club at the ball. How in the world can you propel a ball in that direction, pulling your left arm and the handle of the club at the ball? I would suggest trying to hit it with the club head. And if you want to hit it with the club head, your left arm is going to fold and you'll fire your right side, and that will square that club head up. That will let you hit a descending blow down the line of flight. That's firing your right side. If you're pulling your left, you can never square it up and you can never hit it solid. It's always a glancing blow across. Now, I think one of the best examples that I can give you of the right side unwinding up to the left is, I want you to understand this. Look at Trevino and look at Gary Player. Gary Player and Trevino, when they hit a shot, you can see every time they fire their right side so hard that they take steps forward. Now the point I want you to see here If I fire my right side and I step forward, can you see how I would be extending down the line of flight? If you notice, Gary Player, and if you notice, Lee Trevino, you'll also find when they fire their right side, their right leg works down the outer rail, which is down the line of flight. When it's done incorrectly, when the players pull and slide and stay behind the ball, the low point of their arc is behind the ball, hitting up and across the line, and you can see where all the weight's back here, they would fall backward out of the shot. Now let's take a closer look at common denominator number 6, maintaining the triangle at impact through the ball. Notice how the left elbow is folding down, and notice how the center is releasing to the target. I want you to understand, we always want the club traveling the fastest through impact. So I never like to talk in the hitting area because I feel that's a result of getting in the right position at the top and knowing where to go at the finish. And so therefore, the triangle at waist high with the club in the center of the body is proof of the release in the golf swing. Now the best way I know how to say that to you would be this. From the starting position, if the right side is firing coming through the ball, what we want you to do is feel that the left elbow folds down, and when the left elbow folds down, the right arm can get long and get extended down the line. That's centrifugal force, and you can see how the club is back in the center of the body. Now, many of you, again, have been told so often to pull your left side, to pull the butt of the club at the ball. All you can do, if you pull the butt of the club at the ball and the butt of the left hand at the ball, is to pull across the line of fight and get into what we call the block position. The block position is the left arm off of the body, straight and stiff, blocking the body back, making me hit under, up, and across the line. Always the low point of my arc is coming under and up, and you can see the angle. We see nearly every golfer that comes to us in this position because they're all told to pull the left arm and to keep it extended, and all of them, of the average golfers, just pull across the line of flight every single time. Show them the block position coming through the ball, and I know that's where you were when the right arm was under your left.
I was right here and reversing to the point where I couldn't use my legs at all, so I always found myself this way going through.
Right.
My legs got used after my arms instead of using them to swing my arms.
And also point out here that the left arm, show how your arms are pulling, and that's pulling your legs. Show the difference if your left elbow folds down and extend the right side. Watch how see now his right side is unwinding his body. His feet and legs are unwinding his body. Now do that again and show the arms pulling the leg with a slide. I think they can see that. That's when you there. And show the difference when your right side releases, your left elbow folds down, and that's the right side releasing to the left. And look at the difference in the balance. It's on plane, bring it around, set it down. It's where it started. Now, let's talk about feels coming back through the ball of the firing of the right side. Another way to feel this is to say to you, this is the toe of the club, this is the heel of the club. Never in golf do you pull the heel of the club at the ball. All you can do is wipe or pull across the target line. You're always swinging the toe of the club, and we feel like at waist high through the ball, you put the toe in the air. Now, the toe in the air is important. A little drill to get the feeling of the toe in the air is to take your index finger on your right hand and run it down the shaft and just point to your target. How could you point to your target without having your right hip level, your belt buckle at the target, and your left elbow folded? How in the world could you point to the target, pulling the butt of the club, keeping your left arm stiff? You can never release the club to the target. All you could do is block across it, hitting it to the right with the butt of the club out of center. Or, a lot of players tell you, when you get into the ball, rotate your hands. Well, if you want to hit snipe hooks, rotate your hands, but they're not much fun. If you stay behind the ball, pull the heel of the club and rotate the toe of the club, or rotate your hands, you hit slap hooks, because what happens is you create an angle with the hands crossing the spine, crossing the body. Where is the toe of the club? It's around instead of up. To go to the target, the toe of the club must be in the air. It can't be crossed over left. It can't be crossed under. let's take a closer look at common denominator number 7, the straight balance finish. The hips and shoulders are level, belt buckle facing the target, weight on the left side, no lower back pain here.
Over the years, the one thing that I have looked for in the golf swing is the longevity of players. I've always felt that great players, when you truly look at your great players last 10 years or longer. I don't know how some of these players last 5 years with the way they bow their backs and the way they go through the ball. I know that over the years, people have been told to stay behind the ball and to hit into the inverted C. Well, to me, that's the surest way in the world to pull up, look up, to come up out of every shot, plus the damage that it can do to your lower back from there. Now, what we have found out in the history of the game, every great player who's lasted more than 10 years, all of them finish over on their left side, their spine is straight, and they have what we term as a straight balance finish with the weight all on their left side. We hate the thought or the term stay behind the ball, because one of the things I want you to understand, what makes the ball go in the air is the fact that you're up with your right side, hitting a descending blow down and through the ball, and the spine would end up straight and balanced with the elbows down and together if you go down the line. How in the world could you stay behind the ball, pull your left arm, and hit into a straight balance finish? No way. All you can do is your right hip comes in under your left, your spine is bent. You have a choice here of blocking with your arms or flipping your hands and hitting the duck hook, but all you can do is injure yourself and you lose a lot of power. The only power you would have is if you flip the hands from there. You could be a pull hitter and maybe hit some long shots, but you can't hit them straight. But if you'd let your whole right side go, the loft of the club would lift the ball, you would hit down the line of flight, you would finish perfectly on balance on your left leg, or even like Gary Player and Trevino walk. We talk about the straight balance finish and how to get there. The faster you move center, and I think you could maybe do this by moving the club back and forth, show them how your arms are lay there, and show them, take it back to the top. Now from there, zip it through for us. Now I want you to notice that Artie's arms and hands are laying right where they started. What's moving that club through the ball, Artie?
Boy, I feel my legs, my body, and I can feel my center of balance go right towards the target.
And you feel like, don't you, that their spine and your belt buckle faces the target from the top. When you get to the top, from right there, we want to feel the whole spine, the center. We want to feel the right side drive forward and face the target as quick as we can. But take a look at Sneed, take a look at Boris, take a look at Littler, Sutton, Curtis Strange. I remember when Curtis Strange first came to see me, one of the things that he had a problem with is he would hang back on his right side and he hurt his lower back some. He could feel some pain there. One of the things we talked to him about, of course, is to finish all the way on his left with his elbows down, straight balance finish. You can see that in his swing, Sneed, Hogan, Littler, Sutton. There's no bow in their swing. They're always up where they can hit down the line with extension, and to do that, you'd have to finish straight and balanced. There's no way you could hit down the line with extension by bowing and staying behind the ball. You'd have a short arc. You'd be hitting under, up, and across the line every time, or under and up and across the line flipping your hands. If you hang back, you cannot. And a golf ball does not get in the air because you stay behind it and lift it. The golf ball gets in the air because you hit a descending blow down and through it and finish in a straight balanced finish.
Now let's review the 7 common denominators of the fundamental golf swing. And remember, these are the 7 positions that make up the connected golf swing. These are the same positions that are common to all great golf swings.
We arrived at this by studying the pictures and the films of the great ball strikers over the years, and these are the 7 things that we found they all have in common. Common denominator number 1 is the brace connected address. We like to start there and let you understand how important it is to get your feet and legs braced. The feet and legs are approximately shoulder width inside heel measurements. You want to feel a slight knock-knee position, never just a bending of the knees or just a squatting motion, because that's no good. We want to brace them in so you feel a little pressure off the inside of your feet and legs against each other. Very important. Now from there, we want the arms connected to the body, meaning we do not want your arms reaching out and bending your back or stretching away from you, just connected there. So, common denominator number 1 is the brace connected address here with the arms connected to the body in a position to hold something heavy. not long arms and bending. Common denominator number 2 is once you have the brace addressed, you then have the triangle and center away together at waist high. Common denominator number 2 is to take the brace connected address and move the triangle and center to waist high together. Common denominator number 3 is to coil triangle and center into the brace of that right leg. The reason we want to get into that right leg is very obvious. That's the weight shift in the golf swing. We have to get you behind the ball into your right leg. Common denominator number 4 is what we term as the change of directions in the golf swing, or what we call the fall in. That is, when you coil into your right leg, what is the first move that starts the club down? And it is definitely a firing of the right side, which springs the shaft. You spring the shaft, you never pull it. That's common denominator number 4. Common denominator number 5 is the firing of the right side. Once we load into the right side, we have everything into the leg. When we spring the shaft, then the whole right side fires. We want to feel like a tossing motion. That's the right side firing, going down the line of flight. Common denominator number 6 is kind of a checkpoint for you. If you get into your right side, you fire your right side. If your left elbow falls down, you'd have the triangle at waist high through the ball. In other words, the butt of the club would be back to your belt buckle. We never would want an angle this way or an angle this way. We want the triangle intact at waist high. Common denominator number 7 is proof that the right side fired because all of your weight is on your left side. It's proof of extension of the right side because the left side folds down, and all of your weight finishes on the left side with the elbows down and together. The common denominator number 7 is a straight balanced finish with the elbows down and together. That's all of the 7 common denominators. And I want you to remember one thing. Each one of these common denominators makes up the whole swing, what we call the connected golf swing. You can't do one of them without the other one. Get them in order. Get yourself a camera. Get yourself a video camera and start out and learn to get in the right position. Learn to get into your right leg. Learn to get each one of them step for step. Now, I'm not suggesting that you dot every I and cross every T, but you do have to have a starting point, and you have to start there and work on them. I want you to understand that we used to say it would take 5 years to build a perfect golf swing. I think you can do it now in about half that time, for the simple reason we can use video. And I want you to use video for your own good so you can see where you are and where you want to be. Use these films. You can look at where we show you where you should be, look at where you are, learn. Get behind the ball. You can't do it until you get the weight shift. I want you to find out a few other things. I want you to understand that we have to first change your mind if you've been trying to do other things before we can change your muscles. But remember, you don't build these things in one day. It took Hogan about 5 years to change his golf swing. It took Curtis Strange from the time I started working with him in 1980 to 1985 before it was really as solid as he wanted it to be, where he was satisfied. Everybody has different ability levels. You know where you want to be. Some of you are just trying to break 100 and get into the 90s and the 80s. Let's do that first. Then you might be surprised how much ability you have. But if you work on the right stuff, you should get better. But now what you do, film yourself on video, see if you're doing what you think you do, see if you're doing what we ask you to do. I know if you do what we ask you to do, I know you're going to get better. But change your mind, then you can change that muscle memory. Good luck to you.
preceding was a presentation of Reed Dolph Incorporated.